Here's how you can potentially make $250,000 a year with starting a moving company without even using a moving truck. Today we're talking to Jay from the YouTube channel 7-Figure Moving Academy, who's an expert in the moving business world. We're gonna see how much profit you can potentially make with this moving company as a side hustle, tips and tricks, and what is needed for you to start making money today. Now let's jump right into the interview. All right, so awesome. We're just jumping right into the interview here. And I guess the first question we have to start things off is, how long have you been in the moving business for?
I've been in the moving business since 2008.
And what's like the learning curve into going into this business?
And I worked for a moving company for like a week and a half or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that. And he never paid me. So I just said, you know what, you're not paying me. So I quit. And so my first couple of moves that I did on my own.
So going back, I guess, to your business, what type of clients did you serve? Was it more just residential, or would you get also into commercial as well?
Residential, right? I started off doing labor only, and then I went into full service moving. The problem with the commercial is if you don't have the equipment and the people to do it, and when I'm talking equipment, not just the dollies and the boxes and all that, which is all good, but you need to have like a semi to do the big commercial jobs.
What about if you're someone watching this? What do you need to get started with the moving business?
Everything that you need to start, especially if you're going to start as a side hustle. And when you say a side hustle, I'm talking labor only, because you actually need to be licensed to actually have a truck in most states. So as a side hustle, you can just do labor only. And you don't need insurance. You don't really need a website. You don't need anything. And the equipment that you need, like dollies and things like that, you can actually rent or buy very cheaply at Menards.
Okay, so yeah, it sounds like, yeah, if it's more of a side hustle, you could really bootstrap this, where maybe you do it like that period for several moves or several weeks and decide, oh, this is something you really want to invest time and money in, and then put more money, and maybe you're talking about the next stage is potentially buying a truck from there, getting licensed, insured, and then...
Right. When I started off as what's called a labor only, which means I just loaded or unloaded trucks for customers. And then eventually, I think it was like about 6 months to a year before I got my first full service move where I was actually needing a truck. And then I just rented trucks. I just rented a Penske or a Ryder or U-Haul or something like that. And I worked my way up up the ladder to bigger and bigger things. So you could start a very profitable labor-only company just with just you and somebody else. As a matter of fact, I have one of my students who in Pennsylvania, in the Philadelphia area, that did a labor, watched my videos, started his moving company. In his first year, he made $250,000 in his first year in labor only.
So I guess kind of looking big picture, why did you pick moving as a side hustle in the business versus all the other side hustles out there?
Good question. Actually, there's nothing mysterious. I kind of fell into it. I got a job with a moving company, right? And the guy who owned it never paid me. But I saw what he was doing and how he was getting business, and I was like, I could do this. This is simple, you know. I think that service business, a sweaty business, is something that you could start fairly easily and affordably. And out of the sweaty business, I think moving, especially in today's climate, with Facebook groups and the websites that are out there, the software that's available, I think moving is the easiest business to start up and just rock and roll. But
yeah, going to one of your previous points, you were saying that when you started your own moving business, you ended up doing more revenue in 6 months than the person you were working for within the year. Do you contribute a lot of that to your customers, and how were you able to find your customers and really get the name of your company out there?
Good question. One, I was really, really good at SEO. And SEO at that time was still pretty much the wild, wild west, right? So you could go up on Craigslist and make a Craigslist ad and get a bunch of people calling. Today, I mean, if you're going to do it, I'd do Google My Business. And then if I could, I'd try to get Google guaranteed, right? I would use YouTube. I would actually go into my local community Facebook groups.
But say now you're someone that's watching this and, you have your website, you're good to go, but you start having people calling you, and how do you go about like bidding out the projects, and what would you say is like the average price for a project?
If I were to start off, and what I would recommend everybody start off, I wouldn't really worry about bidding like a lump sum. I would just bid out the hours. Basically, a studio to one bedroom apartment, you're looking at 2 to 4 hours for those two to get to do them, right? A local job, right? A 2-bedroom apartment, you're looking from 4 to 6 hours to do. A 3-bedroom apartment, you're looking at 68 hours. And then a 3-bedroom home or bigger, then you exponentially get bigger as long as you're adding more people. And I'm quoting that at 2 people with 1 truck, right?
Okay.
When you add another guy in, then it gets more. So I would recommend the guys who are just doing this as a side hustle, just worry about targeting your hourly, and then really, pay attention to how long it takes you to load a truck, unload a truck, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so yeah, as you get more experience, you get more trial and error to see, how to be more efficient. Would you have, say, an example of like if you're someone starting out that's just doing labor, how much they could charge per an hour? I know it depends on a lot, like what area you're in, but maybe example of labor, and then someone that has a truck and say another person with them, so a total of 2 movers.
Right. Now, if I were in Chicago and I was just starting off labor, for 2 guys, I'd start off $200 an hour.
Okay.
Right. With a minimum of 2 hours, Now, if you're doing with a truck, then now you got to add it. You got to make sure you're adding in your expenses for the truck, especially if you're running a truck, fuel, insurance, and all that.
So now we know like how much, we're charging per an hour. We know what we need in order to get started, but I know like a big question a lot of people want to know is how much money can you make in a day, then also with like in a month with a moving company?
Again, a lot depends on where you're at. In a city that's got 1 million people or more, then you can do quite well, right? And it really comes down to how efficient you are. Are you charging the right amount of money? And, are you keeping your expenses low, right? But for instance, like Karsten, who's in Pennsylvania, I told he made $250,000 doing labor only. That is very doable. But I would not be able to do that here in my area because I don't have the people to do it. And, I would have to branch out. So a lot of my expenses would be taken up driving an hour to go to another city in my area to do it. But if you're in my area, there's no reason why as a labor only that you can't do $250,000 in my area, right? And there's no reason if you're starting off as a moving company that you can't do $1 million or 1.2 million a year in an area like mine, gross, right? I'm talking gross figures, right? So that's minus payroll and all that comes down. So gross, you could do about 200 to 250 as a labor only, and about $1 million to $1.2 million in my area. It's just as a starting out. Obviously you can scale from there.
I guess going back to you said his name was Carson, the one that was doing $250,000 and just labor only. Is that with him just doing the labor? Or is that like another business partner or like another employee working with him? Or
yeah, he's got people that work with him. Okay. The business is him and his sister, right? So his first year he did 250,000. Now he's on target to do like about 500 to 750 this year because now he's doing full service, right? Okay. Which is a truck and all that good stuff. He's got the hustle, right? So this guy hustles and gets it done. So it really comes down to your personal hustle, right? If I'm 50 years old, I'm not going to hustle that much. I'm too tired. I'm too fat. My back is shot. I'm not going to get on the trucks. I'm not going to do that.
But I guess kind of based off that, whether it's like a side hustle or a full-time job, like how many hours a week, does it take to run a moving business? And I guess if you could give kind of maybe different examples, like the person we're talking about with Carson, which is doing labor only, or then also someone that has a truck as well.
Right. If you're doing it full time, then you're 24/7, 365. Okay. There's no days off. Christmas, Thanksgiving, forget about it. You're doing something. You've got to hustle. Now, if you're just doing that as a side business, there's no reason why you can't 10, 20 hours a week, could give you a good, decent side hustle income. where you're making, 5, even up to 10 grand a month.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. What about, is there anything you wish you would have known before getting started with the moving business?
Everything. Putting in systems and processes and learning financing and learning marketing for real and bettering my sales and so on and so forth. There's a lot that goes into that back end that the technicians don't know, even though they think they do.
But yeah, kind of like wrapping everything up, if someone wants to get started today, what are like 3 steps that you would tell them to take action on immediately in order to like start the moving company?
Just start off labor only, because at first it's easiest to get into. It'll help get your feet wet. First of all, I would sign up for all the free labor only boards like movinghelper.com, hirehelper.com, Simple Moving Labor, Elite Moving Labor, and sign up with all these labor providing companies that allow you to sign up for them and that will give you jobs. So they'll do all the marketing and they just send you jobs, right? All you have to do is come up with your service area and how much you want to charge. So start off with that. Then I would work on getting a really quick, easy website. You could get templates now for $50 to a couple $100 a template that you could get on WordPress or Wix or Squarespace or whatever, and you could just get a quick template, plug in a couple of your address and your phone number, get the website up.
But yeah, that's all of our questions. I want to thank you for helping myself and our viewers learn more about starting their own moving company or as a side hustle. So yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.